I'm excited about the project this week. It's going to be a large bowl, and it's from a Cherry Burl, not a common wood that I get, and also much bigger than I would normally get. Stay tuned to see how this turned out. So I have one of my favorite woods here to turn, at least number 2 on my favorite list, and that is Cherry Burl. It's good size. I've already cut it in half. I'll show you this half first. This is wet, so to show you the beautiful, beautiful color to it. With a finish, it'll be close to that in color. And here it is dry. Again, it's a burl. I've got a good diameter here. I'll be able to get 16, 17 inches out of this. And this one is at least 5 inches deep, and the other one's going to be more shallow, probably closer to 2 to 3 inches. But I'll go ahead and get these mounted up, and then we'll get turning. A word of safety here. I always wear eye protection. That's minimum when you're turning. This has got a lot of bark on it that will not stay on, and so it's going to come off. And especially when I'm roughing a big piece like this in the beginning, eye protection is not enough. You see that there coming off. You really need a shield. So I'll start out with a shield. Now once I get it down, so I'm just taking off fine shavings, I'll switch to minimum of eye protection, but for now it's face shield. So I'm not going to lie, it's been rough getting to this point. It's been about a half hour, and you can see here I'm around for 3/4. I still have this section. Now I got to make a decision. Do I take everything down to this low spot, or do I leave some openings in my bowl? I am a fan of openings. Otherwise this bowl is going to be pretty small. And that's the thing when you're dealing with burls, you really don't know. Well, you can take a look and guess, but you don't know exactly how much you're going to lose. I've gone from 18 inches down to probably 15 out here at the rim now, and I think I'm going to have to go a little bit further. I do need to get to solid wood at least for a tenon. I can't put a tenon in this kind of material. It would never hold. Although I think I'm pretty good there now. I've got solid wood. I think I'd be all right. I'm going to take a little bit more out of here and then just make it round, and then we'll take a look at it from there. I have gotten my speed up. I'm now up to 400 RPM, where in the beginning I was at 200. That's a big difference, and you'll cut a lot quicker and smoother the faster you can turn it. This is always the way when turning a bowl. In the beginning, when the bowl is not round, you don't cut as well, chips don't come off as easily. But I think you can see here that it is cutting better. I'm able to ride the bevel on my gouge. I'm able to get a smoother surface, and I'm able to remove more material in a single pass. And the rounder this gets, the better all of these things will be. I normally speed my videos up. Here we are in real time. I've got the outside of the bowl shaped now, and I'm just going over it with my negative rake scraper. You can see the shavings coming off are much finer than what you saw earlier, but that's because you want finer shavings at this point, because really intent of this tool is to give a better surface and therefore less sanding. Here you can see some of the cracks that I'm dealing with, as well as some of the features, but also the surface is getting fairly smooth. There won't be a lot of sanding to this. A little bit more here right near the rim, and that's what I'm doing now. You have seen me before fill cracks on my channel. Usually my preferred method is to fill the crack with coffee grinds, and then add some clear CA glue. Coffee is a good color match, especially for wood that has any staining or spalting in it. Here I'm actually using a colored CA glue. I bought this is a black CA glue. So there's pros and cons to this. I think one of the pros of this is it'll do a better job, I think, at preventing the cracks from spreading. It still ends up looking about the same as coffee, but I think, again, it does do a better job just because the CA glue will seep into the crack better if there's not already coffee in that crack. Now on this burl, I chose not to fill all the cracks, some of them I left, but just the ones that I thought might spread that I ended up filling. So that favorite time when you start to apply some finish. This actually isn't a finish as much as it is just sanding sealer, although it does impart color. You can see the wood is changing color as I apply this. But the reason I did this is I do have some areas that are a little softer. The sanding sealer will just harden those areas up and make it a bit easier to do a final sanding. But again, it is a bit of a sneak preview as to what the finish is going to look like in the end. So I didn't show all the details, but the outside was sanded up to 600 grit as usual, and an oil finish was applied. Then I flipped it around, and you can see the tenon is on the drive side, on the left-hand side of the screen. But you'll also notice on the right-hand side that the faceplate is still attached to the bowl. This bowl is plenty big in diameter, so I'm able to work around the faceplate. Keeping the faceplate attached just helps maintain and protect that tenon. The tenon is not very big. I certainly don't want to break it off, and I want to remove some mass before I remove the faceplate that you see on the right-hand side. The way that works, that faceplate is threaded, but my live center cone fits inside of that, so it still maintains its center position, but also supports the bowl, so I'm not putting a lot of force on the tenon. I do apologize, the angle here is not very good. You're not seeing inside the bowl. It is a hard angle to shoot, but one thing you can notice is that my bowl gouge is going in fairly quickly, and the shavings that are coming off are fairly large and are coming off quite rapidly, so it's cutting well. Again, a burl does cut well just because there really is no obvious grain orientation, which actually makes it a bit easier to cut. But I've reached the point where I've gone about as far as I can go with this faceplate in place, so I'm going to have to take it off so that I can get more of the interior of the bowl. So let's talk a little bit about this. I have a bark inclusion here. It doesn't go all the way through. So I could take the outside down and leave it thicker on the inside, which would mean you'd still see this bark inclusion, but it wouldn't be a hole. Or I can leave it here and take the inside thinner, which eventually will expose that and open it up, and it'll have a hole. You'll still see the bark or the natural edge around the outside, but you'll have a hole into the bowl. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you probably know what my preference is. I don't mind a hole in a bowl. Matter of fact, I generally prefer it. So I am going to stop here on the outside, and I'm going to take the inside down further, and that will expose that opening, and we'll have a hole. Now you can see that I've removed my faceplate and I just have my live center brought up. This gives me a lot more room to work on the inside of the bowl, and I'll be able to take this down almost to the final depth before I need to pull that live center back. It's actually the removal of that last bit of material that's probably the most difficult on the tenon. And if a tenon is going to break, it's that first time when you remove that live center and then you go to remove that center stem. Usually I try and just snap it off, and if you can get it small enough that you can do that without actually having to use your gouge, that's the best way to do it. And you would have seen me on a number of my previous videos just taking that center piece down quite small and then just breaking it off. Okay, let's talk about this bowl. Cherry Burl. I believe it turned out very, very nice. It's a little thicker than I would have liked, but that was because I was trying to save this feature here. Otherwise, I could have gone a little bit thinner. But overall, beautiful bowl. Love the figuring. Cherry Burls are probably one of my favorite woods. I know last week I said apple crotch was, but Cherry Burl is probably even nicer. The bowl finished out at 13 inches in diameter and 6 inches in height. Again, got some very interesting features. Has a hole here with a major bark inclusion, some other bark inclusions, a branch here that has come out completely, making a hole, and some holes that bark inclusions that didn't go all the way through. One here, and one here. Overall, pretty pleased with the way it turned out. Oil finish and then wax on top of that. And this bowl is for sale. If you're interested, just reach out and I'll let you know the price. Thank you very much. So why do I love Cherry Burls? Well, the main reason is what you see here, the bark inclusions, which make for a nice artistic feature. The other is just the grain pattern overall. You see these dots here on the side of the bowl. You only see that in burls. It's the only time you see that. Again, I do like holes in my bowls, so that gives you that opportunity as well. But overall, even just the grain and the coloring inside a burl is very spectacular. I was very fortunate. This is a big burl as far as burls go. This was given to me by my uncle, who was also a woodturner. And thank you very much for this gift. And I do believe that it made a very nice bowl.